So the first thing on our list is introductions. So I'm Janelle Turner. I work for the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, and I am the board chair. Carol Ann, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Carol Ann Morrison, and I'm the director of the Division of State Schools.
Peggy.
Hey there, Peggy Sinclair Morris. I'm the principal at KSB.
We'll go with Gary.
Okay, sorry. It's Gary Mudd, recently retired from APH.
Brandy, you're next on my grid there.
Hi, Brandy Hitzelberger, KSB parent.
And Mike.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike Flynn, and I am a parent of a graduated child from KSB.
All right, so it looks like our next item is the approval of our minutes from our last meeting in October. I believe, Brandy, you sent those out, right?
I don't think I did.
Okay.
No, I don't think any, no, I did not.
Okay, this is one of those places where I get stuck. Do we need to, can we postpone them till the next meeting, or how does that work? We need to do them now?
I think you could probably, Caroline will have to just let me know for sure, but usually we would postpone them to the next meeting. But that's something that probably needs to be discussed in the duties of like secretary and chair, who's going to send those out, because, you know, kind of before we had an official secretary, Paula used to kind of just do everything. So it's never been like official who does what. So it just kind of needs to be clearly defined. And like before, I would just send the notes to Kevin.
Okay.
And Kevin just kind of did everything. So it might be good to just clearly define who's doing what. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So let me ask a question. We had the minutes from the last meeting, right? Like they were completed. I think I saw a copy of those, but they just weren't sent out to all the board members to review before today. Is that
Yeah.
where we're at?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can share them if you want to share them. I'm sure everybody can read them over real quick and approve them.
Sure. Brandy, how did you all handle that in the past? Or do you have suggestions for how to handle that?
Well, Jerry and Mike can jump in here, but we had Paula, and Paula never made any mistakes. So,
So true.
you know,
I
I
will-
dropped the ball. So that's, we never had to deal with this. So, because we had Paula, and she was awesome.
I won't be able to read them and be in the meeting at the same time, but I can read them and send in my response, I suppose, later.
I don't think it's an issue if we approve them at the next meeting. I don't.
Oh, I don't either.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we just want to postpone that until our next meeting, and then vote on them then? And we'll make sure that today's meeting notes get distributed.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay. All right.
Is there any way we could, since everything seems to be virtual nowadays, we could get them and then send send our approval to somebody or corrections or?
Just an email approval?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I don't-
rather than delay it for several months. I've done that in other meetings, so
Mhm.
Okay.
it just depends on what we want to do.
I don't know if our bylaws address anything with that.
Probably not.
That's what I was gonna guess. Most bylaws do not. So
Hmm.
It seems like we have done an email approval before.
I think you're right.
I think we have. Mike, can you remember? I think we've done an email approval when we were kind of going over the bylaws. I think we kind of emailed back and forth.
Yeah, I remember that came up in one of our meetings, Gary. It's been a while, but we talked about that. Like, can we just do this over email? And I want to say at the time there was maybe, I hate to complicate things, but there was maybe a reason why we couldn't do that. We had to be in person to do it. But I would agree, like in this new virtual environment, that should be something we should be able to do. It's been a while since we talked about it, though. That's my recollection.
I would say then if there's nothing to prevent that, I'm okay with that. It may be something we need to add to our bylaws since I'm sure it'll come up again.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like we're all in agreement. I mean, I propose we just do that now. It may be on the agenda next time. Look at the bylaws, make sure it accommodates kind of a virtual approval. But it wasn't too hard to adjust the bylaws last time we went down this path. So.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, and we've got the review of bylaws in a little bit, so that's something that we can maybe talk about there
Mm-hmm.
too. So, all right. So it looks like our next item of business is the discussion of long-term goals and work program for the school. I know this was something that Brandy had brought up as a possible task for us, and I believe Carol Ann said that we could get a list together after our discussion, and then that would go on to Greta. So
I'm sorry. Can I just say I'm writing in the notes. We're gonna see if we can do the approval of the minutes by email. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Due to COVID restrictions, I think that helps. Put
Okay.
those in there. And Janelle, you dropped out whenever you read the next agenda item.
Oh, thank you for letting me know that. Next on our agenda is recommendations that the board may have regarding the school and the work program. I know Brandy had brought that up to see if as a board we could, and Carol Ann said that we can. And we could get a list together and she could present it to Greta as some things that might be appropriate areas for improvement, or just different things maybe we might want to see the school do. So I don't know who wants to go first, kind of start the conversation.
Mike, did Daniel work a lot through the program?
Not a lot. Some things got canceled, so I'm probably a bad example to call on. Because we've been trying to find stuff for Daniel to do, but not this.
I'm probably most familiar with the work program. because Voc Rehab is part of planning that and assisting with paying the students and getting job coaches if they need those to be successful. And we started talking about some possible changes. I wanted to say maybe about this time last year. Just some things that I was seeing, and I know some of the counselors from Voc Rehab had mentioned. And so I can't remember all the specifics at that time that Kevin was still in the position. So, I mean, I kind of have some things that I've noted. I think one of the biggest things, and it's something that I hear parents talk about, is how can we expand the types of jobs that may be available to those students? And I know some of that has to do with transportation and how much time they have to do the work program in the community. But it seems like a lot of the jobs are food service, which isn't a bad place to start if you've never worked, for sure. But then how do we kind of take that to the next level, maybe the next year, to get them maybe something that may align more with their interest? So I think as far as Voc Rehab is concerned, that's maybe one of the big things. Just trying to get them more exposure.
And I mean, I did talk with Janelle a little bit, and I think that both of us are in agreement that, you know, we realize these things are not going to be done overnight. You know, these are long-term goals that, you know, we realize that KDE and Peggy and the staff is going to have to work on, and it's going to take time because change takes time, and, you know, sometimes people are resistant to change. So, you know, it takes a while to get everybody to buy in, you know, to what you're trying to do. But, I mean, we've had very little experience in it. You know, we started last year, and just from what the little bit that we saw, I feel like it really, it kind of needs a complete overhaul. It needs to be updated. You know, the way that kids interview, the way that we do resumes, you know, things have changed much more than what they're reading in a book that's being presented to them. Having more students come in and talk about the jobs that they do, having more mentors come in and talk about, you know, jobs that they do. And really, I think, really giving our teachers more education, I guess, or more experience, I don't know what the word is, on the IOP. Because to me, it's just like a second thought, that IOP is. You know, to me, it's done like the day before the ARC meeting, and it's kind of, what do you want to do? Okay, you want to go to college. Okay, you want to do this, you want to do that. It's no big deal. It's kind of a joke. And I don't think it's really a serious conversation that they're having with the kids. I feel like it's a second thought. And it may be because a lot of our teachers don't understand what it is. And I mean, as a parent, really, I don't know that I know that much about it because I've never really been educated on it that much.
And I kind of think with students who are blind, visually impaired, especially, that if they don't have those concepts of maybe what some of those questions are, and I've not actually seen the interest part of that program, but are they really able to give the answers that would fit them better because they've not had that experience of those concepts? And I think that's an issue with career interest test in general, is that there's a lot of other kids too. If you're not exposed to it, you don't know. So I know that's more than just a KSB thing.
Well, and I don't know, sorry, Janelle.
No, go ahead, Brandy.
And I don't know if this is kind of on the same track, but I feel like we kind of lag behind on even getting our kids transition ready. You know, all of our kids, not just our, you know, work program or whatever kids. I feel like we're sending all of our kids out, a lot of them that are 18, 19 years old, that can benefit from another year, you know, stretching out their diploma. I don't know how, but stretching it out and, you know, helping them with some more ECC skills, because I feel like that we have over the years, and we've had so much transition, we've had so much turmoil, that I feel like we've kind of gotten away from our mission. And we've lost sight of really educating our blind children or blind students with those basic kind of skills that they need. And that's those everyday kind of life skills. And really, I think I said it in that email, 50% of our population is, I think, multiply disabled. So we really need to push those everyday life skills like, you know, vacuuming, laundry. And you really don't get that unless you live in the dorm. And I really want to stress that I don't think the school is a bad place. I really don't. I think we do wonderful things. But I want us to be the best. And I think these are just some small tweaks that we can implement, because I think we do have a wonderful staff and wonderful new administration, that if we start to just tweak a few small things over the years, that, you know, we'll just be serving all of our students properly. Does that make sense? So I don't want to be like negative Nelly.
Janelle, may I jump in there real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay, I really appreciate this conversation, and thank you all for talking through this. Transition readiness is actually an area that we are looking at to see ways that we can improve. So I really appreciate the conversation and the thoughts around that. I have been working closely with Jane Painter, our Director of Special Education, to start to look into this area. She has noticed in just her observations at the school that that's an area that we could focus on a little bit, as well as a parent survey that we sent out last year. You know, annually we do a parent survey, and we did not have many responses. We had minimal responses, but of those, transition readiness was an area of concern. So that was something that we definitely want to address. So I know last time I spoke to Jane, she was working on touching base with Peggy to see some staff members that she thought would be interested in coming together as a group to kind of start start a work group to start talking about transition readiness and some areas for improvement. So I definitely will share all of this information with her and let her know that you all have an interest in this as well, if she wants some feedback from the field, from parent perspective, all of that. So I just really appreciate the conversation. And I think you're absolutely accurate in what you said, Brandy, that, you know, it's a great school, but any place that we can improve or make it better, we want to do that. And so I really appreciate you all talking about this today.
And I can say from the voc rehab perspective, I mean, this is a great time to kind of pursue this because of our pre-employment transition services and working with students earlier to get them ready to, you know, transition. So I know that plays in a lot to work, but you know, there's a lot of resources out there. Some of them are fairly new, that are free, that may be able to assist with some of that. And, you know, I think, how can we leverage partnerships in the community, to help with some of that, you know, here's what's available, maybe doing some job shadowing, or you can do that virtually. Maybe some things like that to just kind of help the expansion of their knowledge, because that's what I see when they transition from KSB. A lot of times they don't have a real good concept of what they can do. And it seems like a lot of schools have co-ops and that kind of thing, where maybe they might go a half day to a job, and I don't know if that's a possibility. I mean, I know that comes into scheduling, and that can be difficult, but is that something that we could maybe take a look at? Do we have any more comments or discussion?
So this is Peggy. I know coming into the position, that was definitely one of the things and areas that I was thinking about. I think in addition, you know, Brandy said that over 50% of our kids have additional disabilities, and some of those fall into the complex, you know, 2 or more areas. And so I think it's also a matter of working with the staff here on the changing population. You know, we don't get as many kids who are just visually impaired anymore. I mean, it's just kind of the reality of the situation, and the way the population is changing. So I think, you know, it's providing support to the staff here on you know, working with kids with more complex needs and additional disabilities. So that's definitely been something on my radar, and also that kind of 5th year senior sort of, we have had a couple kids that have come back for a 5th year. Unfortunately, they did it during COVID, and so it hasn't worked well. We had a student go back to his home district because they were in person, and we have not been. So it's been difficult to find jobs that would work virtually. You know, just mulling around in my head and talking to the rest of the admin team about a program, you know, a 5th year program for kids around the state who graduate, and they, you know, they could come here for that 5th year to do a deep dive into working and into the expanded core curriculum, because I agree there needs to be more focus on that. So anyways, that's just sort of in the beginning stages, kind of mulling in my head and having some conversations about that. And I'm the same with Caroline. I really appreciate you guys bringing this up and having the conversation.
And I will have to say, we're going to try some virtual jobs for the work program this year. I'm excited to see how it goes. You know, it's hard with some of the students that might need more hands-on, but we can see what's going to work. So I'm really excited about the possibilities there. Peggy's been very supportive of that, and my supervisor with folk rehab has been very supportive of that, because you don't want to punish them per se because of the situation that we're in. So we'll see where that goes.
This is Gary. I'd love to see an opportunity for kids to come back for a gap year, whatever you want to call it, to do a lot of work on ECC and preparing for jobs, because I think that's sorely needed. Sorely.
So Peggy or Caroline, I don't know if you can answer this. I'm just I'm just wondering, actually, it probably has nothing to do with anything. If they come back for a 5th year, like, do they have to take an academic class, or can they just come back and maybe work and do ECC skills? Do you have to stretch out that academic piece into a 5-year plan, or like, is that something they have to kind of plan for? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, no, that's a great question. And one thing that I've talked to Jane about is how we want to work on some training for our staff around transition to talk about planning for it earlier. So we don't want to wait until that senior year to say, hey, we think we need another year and here's what it looks like. We want to start early on 8th grade, 9th grade, planning for that student and what does high school really need to look like. Before we're at a place where they have all their credits and they're ready to graduate and we have to move forward, and then we go, oh wait, we really should have done some of this. We want to plan that well in advance. Does that make sense? That's the goal, is to really start looking at when do we start making those plans and what does that look like.
Okay, so really they would kind of have to take some kind of academic piece to stay that 5th year. So really it does take some planning.
Yes, it does take planning, because if you have all your required, if you have all your requirements for graduation, then we could run into some problems there that we would have to work through. We really want to plan out, how does this look? And we don't, to me, what's best for a student is to help prepare them years along the way, rather than waiting till that last year and saying, we're going to give everything to you that we possibly can and hope you get it. Let's plan and let's give little bits and work on transition all throughout your high school career. I really think that would be best for the students as well.
I like that. I think you'll have a lot of parents that probably would see this as a real help for them.
Good.
Yep, and this is Peggy, and so I agree with Carol Ann, and when thinking of like a 5th year program, what about kids around the state? Because there are so many students, academic students, all kinds of students with visual impairment around the state who they get all their credits, but in public school it's much different working on ECC skills and doing that sort of intensive working on all those compensatory things that our kids need. So for me, it would be great to be able to offer this program, like the one young man who went back to his home district. He had 1 credit left, I think. And so our counselor did a pretty creative schedule for him. But again, it just didn't work out because of the, being virtual. But I believe he plans to come back when we're in person. So I think, so many kids out in the state, they go off to college, but they don't necessarily have the skills that they need. They may have the academic skills, but not, some of the compensatory things that they may benefit from. But again, looking at a program like this, kind of what I'm thinking, again, you have to have additional staff to be able to support this. And that is the crux of that is the issue in my head of getting that additional staff and funding for that staff. So
we need more funding. Are you serious?
Someone needs to go and buy a Powerball ticket tonight, or
Too late.
Oh, so.
The big one anyway.
Yeah.
I don't. I think, well, for academic students, Perkins has a program that I have seen for college prep, because what we're finding out nationwide is that we're graduating a lot of kids who aren't prepared to go to college, and they think they are. But that's not part of this discussion, I suppose. But there used to be a career day, and I know we can't do that anymore with virtual and all that stuff, but it doesn't address what Brandy is asking about, I suppose, and that's that we have multiply disabled kids, and we need to adjust for that and offer them something. And that doesn't seem to be happening. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I just feel like we're definitely not the same school
Mm-hmm.
that we were 20 years ago, or even probably 10 years ago. And I really don't see that probably getting any better, with the technology and stuff and preemies, surviving.
Sure.
So I feel like, we just need to look long term at, the direction that we're going, and our population, and how do we best provide for that population, and
Yep.
even talk to, our staff. What do you think you need? Where do you see the school going, and the student population, and what do you think we need to do? How do you need to be better prepared to teach these kids? So I just think, some long range planning, and in 3 years sit back and reevaluate, and just like a business does.
So it's sort of an FYI. So our Insight Post-Secondary Prep Program. So Perkins School for the Blind actually contacted us about that program because they wanted to kind of know what we were doing, and I don't know if they wanted to model after it. And again, Carol Ann, that's a week-long summer program at Moorhead for kids all around the state to go and kind of get a taste of what it's like to be at college. And they take some college courses during that week, not for credit, but work on orientation and mobility.
They learn
Live
how
in
to
the dorm.
register. Yeah.
Yep, learn how to register, learn how to access disability services office. But again, that's for kids who are college bound or community college bound. It's really a great program.
Yeah, it is really neat. Even like use the cafeteria, right?
Yeah, Yep, we eat in the cafeteria.
At least the cafeteria is better now.
It is, yes.
That's for sure. But I do think there's a lot of potential at the school. I think we've got some administration now that's very excited about things that can happen, and not that was not the case before, but I really see more energy at that level. And so, yeah, I think now's the time to kind of look at those more long range things and where we can get some quick wins, to make things better. I mean, my goodness, you think about how you apply for jobs now, it's all online. Like, you hardly ever see a paper application anymore. The types of interviews are very different. So, and it's just hard to keep up with if that's not your main focus. But I think that's where we could leverage some of those partnerships.
But really, it's when it comes down to anything, it's going to take additional funding, like Peggy was talking about staff.
Yes.
And the Charitable Foundation recently had a discussion about making an organized effort in Frankfort. We haven't gone into that too much, but I think that's important because the folks who do the budgeting in Frankfort need to know more about the needs. And the only way they're going to do that is for somebody to put that out there in front of them.
And Gary, feel free to get with me on that. I
Sure.
would love to go to Frankfurt, and I have a list of, the budget committee and
We've
who we
done
need to
that.
get in contact with.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
I have been told this year is probably a wash because nobody has been in school, and they kind of feel like there's no need to increase any funding.
Oh, I know.
That's what I was told.
I think they felt that way for about 10 years now.
Okay,
Okay,
we'll see. We can still educate them on what we do, though.
sure. Oh, yeah.
There any final comments or discussion on this? If not, the next item on the agenda is the review and adoption of bylaws. Carol Ann, I don't know if you want to lead that discussion?
Oh, I wasn't planning to. I was going to let you all have that as the board. Sorry. I'm happy
No.
to answer any questions that you might have or find any information for you, but really that's for you all as the board to decide what you want in your bylaws.
I do feel like maybe we need to have something in there about electronic voting or something like that. I don't remember seeing that in there. That seems to be the way things are going now, especially the past year. Just to have another way to approve something if needed.
I believe that our legal office at KDE has looked over the draft and was fine with that. If you were going to make any substantial changes like that, would be fine if you want to do that. But I would maybe want to ask them to review that before you actually voted to finalize it, just to make sure that that's allowable under all of the regulations that are in place currently. But that's fine if you want to discuss it and consider adding it, and then I could send it through our office to review.
And just if it's not in there, I would add the role. I think it had something about the chair, but I would add the secretary and what they do and who's responsible for what, just so we don't, like I said before, we've never really had an official secretary. Paula always took care of that. So just to, say, get the notes out to, the chair and KDE rep within 5 days or however long.
So it sounds like that might be something we need to work on the language before we send that on up through legal. I would be willing to help on that.
You're going to help or do it?
Well, I would probably need some input on the secretary's role. Because
Janelle, I was going to say, if you want to just kind of organize that with the group and get their input of any changes or additions that need to be made, and then if you wanted to send it to me, I'm happy to have our legal office review it or provide any feedback that's needed.
Okay.
And I did just pull them up and look at the most recent draft we have, and there is information in there about the chair and the secretary and the roles, but you might want to take a look and see if it's what you want it to say or if you think it needs to be something different.
I don't think I got that one. The last one I had didn't have anything in it, so. Ooh.
I'm sure that this can't be the first time that legals had to deal with COVID and virtual. Can we just ask that question and see if it's going to be okay before we even come up with the language? Because it's going to be temporary. I don't know.
Sure, I can ask them their thoughts on that part, but I think that if there were some other questions about roles and responsibilities that I just want you all to review and make sure it says it how you want it to, or if there's any changes we need, and then I can have them look at everything. But yes, I can ask that question and ask for what that wording would look like. So what you'd really like to know is if instead of voting in the meeting to approve something, can you do that by email after the meeting? Is that the question that I need to ask?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I'll go ahead and send that, and I'll let Janelle know what answer I get, and then I'll let her communicate with you all and work on those bylaws.
And will you resend the bylaws, somebody, whoever has them? Because I apparently don't have the updated.
Sure, I can send you all a copy of what I have now, what was given to me as a draft.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll do that.
appreciate that. Carol Ann, it looks like you're up next with the facilities update since T couldn't be with us.
Sure, and T sent his update to me, so I'm just gonna read and share that with you. And then if you have any questions, I can take them and get them to T and get responses back to you if I don't know the answers. Ritchie Hall is in the final design review with the architects and DECA. And so once that is finished, it'll be ready to be sent out for bid. The project is going to be to do some work around the edge of the roof to stop water from getting behind the brick and also getting into the building. And T said this is a $500,000 project. T has been working with John Aaron to utilize some old capital funds that we have to help make needed repairs on campus. So these are some funds that we need to spend. So they've been trying to look at ways that those can be spent for capital projects. And they've been able to do about $20,000 in needed repairs. And so by utilizing the capital funds, that helps free up some funds in the maintenance budget for KSB. T is working on getting a cost to do a roof repair and replacement for Evans Hall. There's roof damage that is allowing water into the building. The gym, bleacher, and electrical upgrade is completed. Hauser Hall security camera project is complete. They're looking to do a second campus-wide camera project as soon as T has some final budget numbers. And this project will be connected to the new system in Hauser, which will be a cost savings to the next phase of the project. He's getting some updated costs to finish security doors and lock upgrades in McDaniel-Scoggin buildings, and working with DECA and KDE to submit projects for possible funding in the governor's 2021 budget. They're requesting an increase in current capital project funds. Currently, we have two pools of funds that we're able to use. One to do roof repairs, and the second is to do HVAC upgrades. They're also putting together a list of projects for our 6-year capital projects proposal. So we're working on those proposals now. And then he said that he thinks the donation from Charitable Foundation has been given to KSB. So hopefully they can get the playground project started this spring and have it ready for students as soon as possible. And those are all the specific updates he had for you. Brandy, if you want me to send those to you, I can, if that helps for the minutes. I'll do that. I'll make a note and do it as soon as we meet, so you're not trying to capture all that. I'll send that.
I know from the Charitable Foundation about the playground, that money has been set aside to be used, so.
Perfect. I knew it had been, like, I knew that they were sending it. It just, we had to wait until it was received and deposited in the account before they could actually start the playground project, even though they knew it was coming. But it sounds like from T that it has been received, he thinks.
Any questions or concerns about the facilities update? Carol Ann, I don't know if you want to go ahead and do your KDE update since you just spoke.
Sure,
Or,
I can. Well, it's up to you. If you want to let Peggy go first, she may talk about some things, and I don't want to jump in front of her if she has things she wants to discuss for the school, and I'll just add to it if I have anything extra.
that works. Peggy.
Okay, so reopening update. So right now, excuse me, the plan is to have students back on campus March 1st. And that's all kids, dorm and day students. We are going to send out a survey to parents this week on whether or not they want their student to continue virtual or to come in person. It's just a very basic survey, kind of like the one that we sent out last time, maybe with a little bit different language about if the student remains virtual, do they have to remain virtual the rest of the year? That the language will be a little bit different on that. So just to let you all know, the campus, as far as PPE, plastic shields, we've been ready. You know, John has the facilities ready. They've been ready probably since the fall. I mean, we have masks, we have gowns, we have little booties, we have little hats. I mean, you know, we have everything. We do have a reopening plan. I don't know if it's completely 100% final. That will be sent to parents, to all staff, and it lays out, you know, how kids will move around the buildings, how kids, you know, like in elementary, they're not going to be going from room to room. They're going to stay in their classrooms. You know, they'll go to specials together, but they'll socially distance, that kind of thing. In the cafeteria, we have enough tables. The way we eat lunch, it's elementary and middle together, and then high school at a separate time. All kids will be able to eat at their own table, and again, the cafeteria is all set up and ready to go. You know, but we know in elementary, I mean, realistically, some of our kids are not going to be able to socially distance. It will be very, very difficult, especially if we have a group of, it doesn't sound like a lot, but we have 5 kindergartners, and they're all, I think 4 of the 5 are Braille readers or potential Braille readers. So, you know, they won't be able, there will be adults assisting them because they're going to need help. But kids won't go through the cafeteria line. If they choose to get something from the cafeteria, their meal will be plated and brought to their table. So that's to avoid kind of, you get, you know, a line and people back into each other, and to kind of, you know, be able to maintain that social distance. You know, again, in the plan, it talks about if a student gets sick, you know, we have isolation areas where the student would go until they can be picked up by the parents or the district. You know, if the district or parents are unable to transport them, then we have a plan for that. You know, we would have to transport the kids home in a state car. So, yeah, I don't know if anybody has any questions on that, or you want to wait till I go through all my updates. You know, some of the scenarios we've tried to plan for different scenarios, but I feel like some of the things we just won't know until kids are here and to see how it works. I mean, I know most of our kids can wear masks. Some of our kids, it's very difficult for them to wear masks, and we understand that. You know, our kindergarten teacher is working with the parents of kindergartners on starting to practice wearing masks. I know kindergartners were kind of in the national guidance, they're waived for having to wear masks. But again, I'm sure you guys have been out and about. I've seen like 3- and 4-year-olds wear masks. So we're just encouraging parents to practice.
So Peggy,
Yes.
I know that we have to go back to school. I get that. And I know we're going to try our best to get everybody back. If the positivity rate continues to be up and the county is still in red, will we still start back?
That's the plan. Yeah, because we have I feel like we have a pretty robust mitigation setup. You know, mitigation strategies are in place. So that is the plan. Mm-hmm. And that kind of takes me into the vaccine update. So I meet weekly with Martin Monson, our outreach director as well. We meet weekly with the Louisville Metro Health Department. And we provided to them a roster of staff who wanted to get the vaccine. And I think it was 70% of our staff signed up to get the vaccine. So we were told, you know, maybe beginning of February, but 2 weeks ago, people who signed up started to get emails saying, hey, go ahead and sign up. So I think most of the folks who signed up were vaccinated last week with the first dose. There were a few folks that incorrect emails, so we added them to the list. We also were able to add our subs. And then there were some people that changed their minds. So I don't know, you know, again, I've gotten like 3 emails from the health department to say, go ahead and sign up for your first dose. So I think there's some glitches, you know, there's some email glitches. But I mean, if you think about the process and all the people they're dealing with, I think, you know, the actual process was pretty amazing. Like, I was there on the first day and it took me an hour and a half to get through. And then I took a staff member the next day, it took us 30 minutes. So, I mean, they have tons of volunteers. They direct you to where you go. You stay in your car. The only thing I did bring up to them, that you do have to fill out some paperwork and it's not accessible. The individual that was with me, he reads large print, but even with his magnifier with his phone, he couldn't read it. And so I did bring that to the attention of the health department that, you know, hey, this needs to be an accessible format, you know, for people that are blind and visually impaired, but for other folks too that may use text to speech or, you know, use like a program like Drag and Dictate. So I think people with disabilities have not been on their radar, but I'm hoping that they are more so now. So as far as the second dose, we have not heard. They said that we'll get an email to sign up, but to keep in mind there could be delays. And I'm sure we've all seen the news. You know, I think Kentucky, from what I've heard, we're in the top 10 as far as the states where vaccinations are going well. So I think, you know, I think they've done, and I think the Louisville Metro Health Department has done an amazing job. Just, you know, what we found, different health departments around this, you know, because we have kids around the state, we found that different health departments everybody's doing something differently. I feel like it's very much local control. So anyway, so that's kind of where we are with the vaccines. And the vaccine didn't hurt, so. And I know some people had really sore arms. I did not. This vaccine was a piece of cake compared to the shingles one, if anybody's gotten that one. Okay, do y'all have any questions about that? Okay. So new staff, we have offered, and the position's been accepted by, her name's Christy Stanley. She will start as a new O&M specialist in the fall. She's relocating from North Carolina. Brand spanking new out of the program out of North Carolina Central University under Dr. Bill Weiner. And I met with him online and the intern supervisor right before Christmas, and they said she's one of the best students they've ever had. So very excited. Yeah. So we've also offered a position. We have a new position that Martin kind of created. Well, we took a position, the outreach consultant in the central Kentucky area, and we took those districts and kind of added them to other consultants' areas. And then, so the new position is an O&M and AT outreach consultant. And so that position's been offered to an individual. We're still working on the official paperwork, so I can't announce the person's name because the other people who applied have not been notified. But again, incredibly lucky to have this person, very, very qualified. And also has ties to my alma mater, so came out of the same program that I did, so I'm looking forward to when this person can be official and I think can start, is able to relocate very quickly. So the other, we're interviewing for the, Carol, and her last name just flew out of my head. Dixon, Carol Dixon, who was over food service. We have 2 more interviews today. We've interviewed 6 people, and we have the last 2 interviews today, and have had some pretty phenomenal candidates. So we'll make I think we're going to meet today and make a recommendation to hire that. That position, and we're really pushing to get all these vacant positions filled because we do have to have enough dorm staff in order to open safely. So new positions, we're working on posting another O&M position because we really need 3 full-time, but I think there have been 2 full-time for a number of years. So there's new certification through the Educational Professional Standards Board. You can get certified as an orientation and mobility specialist. So, which is beneficial because not all O&M specialists have that dual. They're not all certified as teachers of the visually impaired. A lot of them come out just with that O&M. And so if there's not a teacher certification for them, that's why we've had so many O&M folks on the private service contracts in the years past. So it's a good thing that we have that certification now. So yeah, I think that's all the updates that I have. Again, just getting through reopening, and I will sleep better, once we get the kids here and things get rolling, because we know kids need to be in school. I'm excited to have them back. I love it. We have some kids coming for small group instruction, and I absolutely love when they're here. It's just really, refreshing to have the kids here.
Peggy, is Connie the only one doing O&M right now?
Currently, yes.
Okay. That's what I thought.
And Connie, that's not her full-time job. She's our low vision therapist, and she's been able to do it because all the low vision clinics, they did one virtually. They did one student virtually, and I think they're going to look at more of that in the spring. But yeah, she's been able to do that because the clinics have all been canceled.
Okay, Carol Ann with the KDE report.
Thanks, Janelle. I will share that, KDE as an agency overall has been providing multiple resources and guidance documents for school districts for reopening. KSB staff have done a great job of developing their reopening plan. They based their plan on the Healthy at School guidance from KDE and the Department for Public Health. So they really made sure that their plan aligned to that guidance and that they're following all of those recommendations. In the Office of Special Education and Early Learning, they one of the focuses has been on increasing supports for parents and families. We've known, especially during this time virtually, we've seen a need for increased supports for families. they have been partnering with Kentucky Spin to help address, some of the needs and determining supports that what do families need. On the KDE website, there is a parent and family resources page, and they've that division within OCL has really been trying to add a lot of resources to that page. And then from the state schools perspective, in our division, we've really been focusing on two things: on really trying to strengthen our virtual instruction, make it the best that it can possibly be, and then also our reopening plans and trying to get kids back to school. Peggy shared a little bit with you about reopening, and so our plan is to start offering in-person instruction March 1st. We are going to continue to offer a strong virtual option for students. If parents and families are not ready to send the students back, they can choose the virtual option. We're like Peggy said, we're getting ready to send parent survey to see how many are planning to come back and how many would like to continue virtual. And then we will send communication to parents and families after that. But hopefully by the middle of February, we'll be able to send communication about our exact plans for reopening, make sure that nothing has changed with our staffing or number coming back. I will tell you, I'm excited to get reopened. I feel good about our possibility to reopen. I am concerned about being able to stay open and having the staff we need, just because of the quarantining and isolation restrictions that are in place. We are, like, I've met with, like Peggy said, she's met with local health department, and then I've also met with representatives from the Department for Public Health and asked questions regarding quarantine for staff members that decide to get the vaccine. And they have said that right now we still have to follow all the quarantine and isolation rules. So even if somebody has been fully vaccinated with both doses, if they are exposed to a positive case of COVID, they would still have to follow quarantine rules. So that makes us a little bit nervous in that if we have several staff that have to be out at a certain time, it's going to be difficult to make sure that we can operate everything. So we're just going to have to kind of watch that and play that by ear as we move into this reopening phase. So that's an area that we're working on. We're working on alternate plans. If we can't have all students on campus, could we have some at one time and, rotate? So we're looking through all of that to offer the best options that we can for our students. Let's see what else. Oh, I did want to mention to you, I heard you talking a little bit about budget and funding. And so, as you know, this has been a concern for the state schools that we need increased funding to be able to pay for our salaries, our operational expenses, all the things that are needed to run the campuses. And KDE has requested additional funding for the schools. And in the governor's budget proposal that he provided to the General Assembly, there is an increase for this year in that request. So we're still watching to see, what is approved by the General Assembly and if anything changes. But right now there is an increase in funding, which would help us to, fully pay our operational costs and our salaries for staff and things that KDE has been helping us along the way to pay some of that as well. That would really help us to pay for what is needed. Those are my main updates. I had one more thing, sorry. February 3rd, the Kentucky Board of Education is meeting for their February meeting, and we do have an item on the agenda to recommend our next KSB advisory board member, and I had sent that information to you all. So I just wanted you to know that is on the February 3rd agenda. I'll be presenting that to the board. That's it, I think. But I'm happy to take any questions or feedback you'd like to provide.
So I should have asked Peggy this and I didn't. Sorry, Peggy. It's a good question for you too, Carol Ann. Is there any talk of some extra special education support?
That's a great question. And actually, I think I had that in my notes and forgot to mention. So we are having conversations about additional support that we could provide possibly in the summer or throughout the school year with extra time. We are working on that right now. We are working on proposed requests for some ESSER funds, new funds that are available through federal dollars that we could possibly utilize to help support some of this. So we are working on that, but we don't have the details finalized to give you, this is what it would look like. But what we'd like to do is to be able to offer some additional weeks in the summer. It would be an optional type thing for families. We would like to offer that. Of course, when we get back in person and we start having annual reviews, we'll also discuss progress students made, if there were any services that couldn't be provided while we were virtual, how do we make up for those services? And we'll have those discussions as well through ARCs.
Right. I mean, as far as long-term planning, would it ever be discussed that we could possibly add that special education teacher at each level as a support or like a coach for the teachers, having one in elementary, middle, and high school so that she can, kind of pull kids for like a resource type room?
We have actually in our funding request for the ESSER $2, which will, I believe those funds are available to us through 2023. We have actually request funds for what you were talking about, one for each of the state schools. So one at KSB for a special education coach that would, Jane would work very closely with on what the needs are of the school, but that person really having boots on the ground to be able to work with teachers and help coach. So we have requested that. I just haven't heard final numbers or amounts or, if that's going to work, but I'm hopeful that we'll be able to provide that at least for the next few years as we're really trying to transition kids back into the in-person setting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the questions. Are there others? Any other questions? All right.
Okay, it looks like the next item, board recommendations. I don't know if anyone has anything other than what we spoke about at the beginning of the meeting.
So do you want me to write up, like, I'm not, because we've never really done this part before. So would I kind of just in the notes write or what we recommended as far as transition readiness and should we just kind of talk here and say these are our final recommendations? Janelle, do you have like these are our final thoughts, we recommend blah, blah, blah?
Why don't, if you want to write that up and I can look at it, we can send it out and see if anyone has anything else. And then we can send it on to Carol Ann to present to Greta.
Okay. Gary or Mike, do you have any like final thoughts or anything you really want kind of to get in there as far as what some things that we've talked about?
I can't think of anything, Randy. No. Addition.
Yeah, same here. Maybe once we look through what you guys write up, we could jog our memory, but nothing comes to mind right now.
Okay, so I'll write what I've got in my notes up and I'll send it to y'all, and y'all can, if you see something or want me to change some wording or something like that, just let me know.
Thank you.
Right.
Sounds good. The next thing is scheduling our next meeting. I don't know if we want to meet every couple months or quarterly. I think we only have to have, 3 meetings? Does that sound right? So if we go 3 months, that puts us into April, which may be good to give in person a chance to get going and see how that is. Do Mondays work for everyone in general?
Yes, for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, let me get the right thing pulled up here. So if we look into April, looks like the dates, if we're looking towards the end of the month, would be the 19th or the 26th. So I don't know if anyone has any preferences on those dates.
Either one's good for me. It's scary.
Yeah, me too. Either's fine for me.
Okay. Brandy, are you good with either one of those?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. What about the 19th then?
Okay.
Are we doing 11
And then I'll get the
or
time.
11?
I was gonna say, I'll get the time straight this time. Does 11 or 11:30 work better for everybody?
Hmm.
Anyone have a preference? I'll go back to 11. I'm gonna make sure that's
Okay.
the right time. Okay. If nobody else has anything, I think we will adjourn.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Peggy. I hope everything goes well in March. Get those
Thank you.
checks.
Yeah, thank you all for y'all's support. I appreciate it. And Carolyn, thank you for your support.
Yes, thank you to all of you for coming together today. I really appreciate the conversation and the feedback. It gives us lots to think about. So thank you.
All right.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
All right, have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.